My name is John Croft and I am the Professional Development Manager for Macmillan Education. In this small talk, we're going to have a look at how we can create young language explorers. And in particular, we'll have a look at how we can use culture in the classroom as a springboard for production. We'll first begin at having a look at what culture is, why is it important, and then we'll have a look at how we can use it as a springboard for production in our classes. Now you may be thinking about what is culture and why is it important? I think we all know the increasing importance of culture in today's society, okay? But how to actually start going about integrating it into our classroom is another matter. So statistics from China will see now 500,000 students are going abroad to study each year, and 30% of those now are secondary school students. But how many of those will understand the different cultures that they're going to be going and studying in? So teaching the students about different cultures, maybe before they go out, they travel, they study abroad, is also one element now that education or language learning is trying to integrate. Likewise, in Southeast Asia, we have the whole ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asia Nations. So 10 countries, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, etc. So all these countries are increasingly coming more and more into contact with each other, whether it's sort of socially or through travel or through work, through study as well. So teaching students about these other countries is becoming more and more important. So what is culture? So here we can see a definition from the Macmillan Dictionary. So culture is a set of beliefs, okay, ideas and ways of behaving in a particular society. So we saw from that ASEAN map, all those different 10 countries have their own set of beliefs, ideas, and ways of behaving. So it's a matter of helping students from a particular country to start realizing that different countries have different cultures to their own. So we can describe culture in two ways. We can describe it through big culture, we call it big C culture, which would include aspects such as art, music, literature, language, architecture, and history. And we can see some examples here. We also have something called small c culture, which is less visible, okay, but it's still very present in our societies. So these may be things like daily routines, food, clothes, hobbies, jobs. Actually, all these kind of things we're already integrating into topics, into units through our course books. So we have different areas that we can look at with our students. So big C culture, but also small c culture. Before we move on and have a look at how we can start integrating culture into our classroom, it's also important to have a look at some of the key benefits of why it's important to integrate culture into our classroom. So with culture, we can help build global citizens and respect for others. We can help foster cultural awareness and understanding of different cultures. We can help students reflect on their own culture. So by having a look at other cultures, they can then personalize this and compare different cultures with their own culture. We can also draw on the children's natural inquisitiveness, okay, about the world. But also we can lay the foundations for future interactions with people from different cultures, from different countries. So that's what culture is, and a little bit about why it is important for our students, and why not start with young learners. Start from an early age, getting them to understand about different cultures from around the world. Now in this next section, we're going to have a look at how we can integrate culture into the young learner classroom. And in particular, we're going to have a look at how we can use culture as a springboard or a stimulus for language production. So by production, I mean getting the students speaking orally or even written production, okay, about the topics using the English language. So I'm going to show here how we can integrate culture into the classroom, but how we can use culture as a way of keeping language learning purposeful and real. Okay? I'm also going to show that how culture can add variety to our classrooms. As teachers, we're always looking for different ways, different activity ideas, or different ways to engage and motivate our students. But also importantly, how we can use culture, as I said, as a springboard to production activities. Now, in this example from Next Move, students study about different cultures and country contexts. So in each unit of the coursebook, there are 10 units in each level of Next Move. In each unit, they'll visit, they will explore a different country, okay, and different elements or different parts of culture that are representative of those countries. Now, can you guess which country the students are studying here? If you haven't guessed from the visual clues, okay, yes, this country is, of course, South Africa. So that's one good starting step for a teacher, is to bringing visual clues to spark interest, to spark background knowledge, to get the students engaged and motivated about that particular country. So here the students or the teacher brings in the visuals, and the students begin to start guessing about the country, identifying different pictures, which can of course lead to a lot of vocabulary development at the start of the class. In Next Move, we also at the start of each unit, we have these big picture visual openers. This is also a great creative visual way of integrating or introducing culture into the classroom. And this can lead also to a lot of good quality, effective production in your classes. So here we set the scene through this big picture visual, okay? There's different activities here that teachers can use. We can get students to try and identify the different vocabulary in the picture, so activate their background knowledge or their schemata. We can also build curiosity. We can ask them questions about the picture. We can have certain critical thinking activities as well. So for example, we might ask our students, what can you see in the picture? Or do you have giraffes in your country? If not, what animals do you have in your country? Okay, so we can start getting the students thinking a little bit deeper about the picture, but at the same time, we're drawing in all their background knowledge or their schemata, all their vocab, what they know already. Okay? We can also have some other sort of fun production activities. Maybe here the teacher can have a game of I Spy. So for example, the teacher will say, I spy with my little eye something beginning with G. And the students have to try and look in the picture and find a word that begins with G. So using visuals, okay, or these big unit openers, we can start getting the students becoming a little bit more critical, a little bit more creative with their thinking at the start of the unit. Also, a next move at the end of the unit, we have these double-page spreads which return to the country context. The students there will have a factual text about a particular country. They will have a little critical thinking task, followed by a personalization task, and then a final production activity. So here all the skills are integrated. They're practicing, reviewing, recycling the skills, the language that they've learned from the unit in the context of this, or these production tasks, again geared around these different countries. So here again, moving on from the big visual opener about South Africa, here they're reading a little factual text about a typical meal in South Africa. And then afterwards they go on and personalize and create their own meal from their own country, which then they present back to the rest of the class. And we're going to have a look at now at how we can go about teaching such a lesson effectively. So we've seen the structure. We're going to have a look now at how we can teach that effectively. So let's have a look first at our cultural text about a typical meal in South Africa. Now for me, I like to use sort of a step-by-step process, or a clear guided process, or a scaffolded process to help guide the students through this task. Now for me, firstly, I like to try and boost the confidence with the reading text. Sometimes when we have these slightly denser reading texts, a lot of teachers, and I find myself, it's quite difficult to teach for students, especially if they don't know all the words. Maybe they're trying to read through and trying to translate each of the words. So the first thing here is trying to build their confidence, getting them used to working with texts like these. So one or a couple of example activities that you can use with a text like this. The first one is to go through and pick out some of the key vocabulary. So this might be, for example, all over the world, toast and eggs, ostrich, menu, delicious, hard shells, jump, chicken, cherries, strawberries, all these kind of key vocabulary. And we can create different actions for these key vocabulary. So you can get your students, you can have a little bit of fun with your students, developing actions for these key words. So for example, for all over the world, we might have students doing something like all over the world, okay? Or toast and eggs. We might have an ostrich, very long neck, can run fast. We might have jump, chicken, fish, etc. And as you read through the text, once you've done the actions, you've had some fun with those actions with the students, you can read through the text. You can do something called a shared reading. So here the teacher, the students, they read the text together. And when you come to one of those key words, all the students will jump up and do that particular action. That's one idea. A second idea for building their confidence, for boosting their confidence with these kind of text, is you can play a game of something called Stop Teacher. So this is when, again, the teacher and the students, they do a shared reading. So they're reading together, they're following the text together. But here the teacher will, on purpose, make little mistakes with words in the texts. For example, the teacher might start reading the text, many children all over China. And where the students hear a mistake, they have to say, stop, teacher, okay? And then they have to reread the sentence correctly. So that will help them focus their reading on the words, on the key words in the text, and help them try and identify those teacher errors. So that's the first point, trying to boost their confidence, have some fun with those texts, boost the confidence, help them motivate the students with those texts. The second part of the process is to help guide the students. So here the teacher can prepare some little cut-up sentences or words from that text. So the teacher will maybe photocopy the text or prepare on a Word document on the computer, can print out and cut up the words from the text, give it to the students, and as they read in groups or in pairs, the students try and reconstruct the text using those words that the teacher has given. So that can be given while they're reading or as a bit of an after task. So after they've read, they try and reconstruct the text to try and see what they can remember using those words, those cut-up words that the teacher has given them. Another task that you can be using with text like this is something called mind mapping. So it's a great way of summarizing or trying to reconstruct the key parts of a text. Again, if the students don't understand the whole text, it doesn't matter. Again, it's a great activity for a mixed ability class because the students can create the mind map at their own level. So if they're a higher level student, they can be creating a bigger mind map. If they're a slightly weaker student, maybe a smaller mind map. So here's an example of a mind map that I have created for this particular text. Now, just to remember for you as a teacher, to help remember or to help you sort of teach mind maps or integrate mind maps effectively, here's a little 3-step process that you can use to help teach mind maps effectively. First one is to prepare, okay? So firstly, you would provide a model or get them students started with the mind map. So you might do this as a whole class. So you can start off by writing big breakfast on the board, okay? And you can elicit different keywords to help summarize the text, and you can start building up with the whole class. The students then can break off into pairs or they can work individually, and they can start building up their own mind map at their own level, okay? Picking out the keywords, key phrases for the text. Now, we want the students then to be able to summarize and retell the text. So we want to give them a little bit of practice time first, so to prepare individually what they're going to say. So they look at their mind map, they have a little bit of time, a few minutes, to prepare in their minds what they're going to say, okay, using their mind map. They then get a chance to practice that, and then after that, once they've built up confidence, they can then present back to a partner, or if they want to volunteer, to the whole class. But by going through this process, we're building up, we're boosting their confidence with their production, with this end speaking task. So when they come to produce the language, they're going to have this confidence that's been installed in them because of this guided process. So that was an example of a few activities of how you can approach texts, those cultural texts, with your students. So moving on now to the final production task. So here they're firstly personalizing. So they're drawing from that information about the South African meal, and they're then drawing or creating information about their own meal, something that they would eat in their own country. Okay? So again, they're personalizing to their own context. So this can be really motivating for the students. Now, to do this first, they can sort of brainstorm sort of key areas about a meal in their country, about the ingredients, particular taste, maybe the special characteristics of that meal. They can brainstorm first. always good to do a model with the students first on the board to set the expectation. Okay, and then the final product would be the students actually talking about their meal. So here we can also support them, maybe with a template diagram. So here they could use this template to firstly draw their preferred meal in their country. They can label, they can annotate the meal. Again, great for mixed abilities. For stronger students, they can annotate it. They can label it a little bit more in a bit more detail. For weaker students, they just do it to their level as much as they can. So we provide them with a template. Again, we give them time to practice what they want to say. Again, we can give them, we see here, useful phrases that they can use as a way of presenting back their final piece. So providing them with this useful language can help them boost their confidence with this final production task. So they can then present back their poster or their meal to a partner first, and then to the rest of the class. So going through this guided step-by-step structure, we can really sort of boost the confidence of the student when it comes to that final task. A few other ideas, if you want to get more creative with this kind of production task, here's a few ideas from different teachers around Asia. So in this first picture, we see some teachers, some primary teachers from Malaysia. So at the end of each unit, when the students were preparing their final production task about a particular country, the actual teachers prepared or got the students to make their own little mini books. And as the students visited the different countries in each unit, they would draw or prepare their task in their mini book. So by the end of one of the Next Move books, the students would have a whole mini book of 10 different pages about different countries that they would be able to take away, take home, practice at home, show their parents. And I've actually added a link here at the bottom to a little YouTube site where you can go on and see how to make a mini book. Also, students, here an example from a primary school in Taiwan. Here they're getting creative, making their own posters. So the teacher prepares some materials, some colored cards, some glue, some scissors, and the students are drawing, creating their own poster, which they would then use as a way, as a platform to presenting back their piece of work to the class. Again, it's great to have something that they can take away, take home, review the language that they're learning in class. So there's just a few ways about how you can start trying to create little young language explorers in your classroom through integrating culture. So we've had a look at what culture is, why it's important, and how we can start integrating it into the young language learner classroom. So my challenge for you would be to go away and try and create some young language learner explorers in your classrooms. For more information about this course, please see the website link below. Likewise, for this small talk, you'll find a handout of all these activities that I've been talking about for your future use.